Chapter 9, the motherfucker and the original motherfucker. I wanted to start off by asking questions to the group. I would love for you guys to summarize what you read. Your takeaways from the chapter. We got three chapters to get through, and I want this to be as concise as possible. So, in the most simplistic way as possible, please tell me, like how you felt about the chapter and your summarization of it. I'll go first by saying, very interesting chapter. Like all the chapters in the book. What I took away from it is that through racism, white supremacy, there has been a process of unnaming and not allowing Black people and Black men in general, primarily to not have names, being labeled forever. A child being labeled forever. A woman, if you are a masculine male, a Black male. Basically, just not the dehumanizing process coming in the form of like a denaming process, not being allowed to be considered a man, and how being a man is something that's not an entitlement to Black men, and how racism, white supremacy enforces that and sustains that. Mary, do you want to go ahead and
Yeah, to summarize, first of all, thanks for your explanation of your interpretation of chapter 9. For me, chapter 9 was like extremely eye-opening. Like, of course, from the previous discussion that we had at the previous book club, I got into it, but re-listening to it and taking it in more this time round, it made me think about how it permeates further into society right now, and how we just look at it. So there was a part of the chapter in chapter 9 where they discussed, I can't remember the character's name. Hello?
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, sorry. So there was a part of the chapter where I can't remember the character's name, but he put blackface on and he made a song about mummies and loving their mummy, and how it was like highly praised and it topped the charts and it rised up. It made me think about how now in society, anybody who acts Black or like coming into the music industry, a lot of white artists have to like literally break in through by doing a Black act. Like people who I love, but that's what I saw. Pink growing up, Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, everybody had to put on a Black act to break through into the music industry. And that just kind of, it just shows how it continues in white supremacy. If you're white dominant, but if you're a white or European descendant, but put on a Black act, you will literally rise in Black culture and mainstream media, making it harder for the black people who are given this culture and talent to economically grow. So that this chapter detailing that, being able to observe that in society now versus explaining the inception was just really good for me. And also the part of where I have it written down, I'll just read it. Just find it, 1 moment. Yeah, the high level anxiety. Oh, sorry, that's chapter 10. No, never mind that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Let's let Ben go, and that's why you go.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Oh man, what profound analysis from the both of you. Good stuff. What a chapter. Even at this age in my life, having read this years ago, just brain opening, brain busting, right? The fact that the Black racism.
It is.
racism was not the only #1 mental health problem in this nation, but additionally was the #1 cause of all other mental health problems. You know, which is like super, because any problem that we have can be uprooted. You know what I mean? It has to be, you know, we can do all the psychoanalysis and therapy and book clubs that we want, but until we get to the root, which is white supremacy, we'll always get back to the self-hate, the self-loathing, and not understand why I'm feeling guilt and shame, this deep-seated guilt and shame, because she talks about it in later chapters, how the fear, guilt, and shame is projected on us, and then it also brought together for me just a deeper understanding of why like 90% of our Black actors, all of them, are somehow manipulating into dressing up like women. And I'm talking about the most masculine of them all, Ving Rhames, you know, I mean, you can go right, except the only persons that I Dave Chappelle talked about it. He ducked it. He didn't want to do it. But Denzel, he's about the only other one. But if you think about it, all of them, well, at least like say 90% of them. And I was like, wow, why is it so important for these white producers to insist on us dressing up like women? And it gets back to, to the same narrative, the emasculation of the Black man, the dehumanization and the removal of us as a threat. And all of these essays, they just keep reinforcing and giving different examples and different scenarios. That's what I'll open with.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
that was a great analyst, Ben. For me, this chapter was very like their entire book, profound. It just shows me how people in a power system of white supremacy, how the people who are powerless in that system can be expected to behave, and what their behavior can be understood as, because we understand the term motherfucker meaning as you are like a powerless baby, right? Because that's what that word means, and that what also the word nigger means. At the end of the day, it means like you are the victim of white supremacy. You are the target, and you have been made non-human, or you have been barred from participating in your men roles, because we're destroying you, because we have to do that because we're trying to maintain our genetic survival. So when you're a powerless people, that would what happens is you manifest a lot of self hate, because due to you not having power, you direct it towards the people who are powerless like you, instead of the people who have the power, who are the people who practice white supremacy and white people. If I made any sense just now. But yeah, that's my little synopsis of this chapter.
A lot of sense. And
thanks so much, Swap, for sharing that. Thank you as well, Ben. To start the discussion of this chapter by reading the first paragraph from the first page of the chapter. It's very important how we define racism. White supremacy. We're talking about racism. White supremacy is it's very important to use the right language and not to tiptoe around the subject. That's one of the reasons why Black people are in the state that we are now, because we refuse to call out racism, white supremacy as for what it is. And I love when Dr. Frances Cress Welsing regurgitates and refines her definitions. And I'm going to start reading. I have defined racism as the behavioral power system of logic, thought, speech, action, emotional response, and perception, whether consciously or unconsciously determined in persons who classify themselves as white. The goal of racism is white domination over the vast majority of the world's people, whom the whites have classified as non-whites, black, brown, red, and yellow, in order to ensure white genetic survival. So once again, we get back to the root of racism. Racism is an effort to prevent white genetic annihilation. Um, any thoughts, responses, reactions towards that? If not, we can just jump right into it. This chapter was really, this essay was really short and very, very concise, which is why I love this so much.
Yeah, you know what really stands out for me, and it keeps coming up chapter after chapter, is the unconscious effect. What she said, it's almost upsetting, whether consciously or unconsciously, a person classifies themselves as white. So no matter how many dashikis you wear, how dark complected you are, no matter how you wear your hair, no matter how you look, if we are subconsciously having been conditioned by this society to consider ourselves. So when I say classify themselves as white, that from what I'm hearing is she's saying that it's a mental thing. It's a psychological thing. And it's a behavior thing. And if I behave in such a way that treats other people as inferior, and I treat myself as I'm superior, that's scary, you know? Then I'm perpetuating white supremacy. And it's deeply woven, it's deeply woven into my psyche, you know? I don't know what's wrong with this thing. Let me stop it. Okay. Yeah, and you know, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I can read through these chapters and not really see clearly some of the information. Okay.
Thanks so much, Ben, for sharing. So yeah, Mary, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, bear with me. I'm just scrolling on my laptop, trying to look for the part that really struck to me. Off memory, the part that struck to me, chapter 9, was mainly the part where they discuss the relationship between the white man and the black woman, stating that in sexual acts they were asked to defecate and urinate. And I just thought about this whole like concept of BDSM, and I thought about the concept of like strangling while sexual acts are just the act of sex being so derogatory and removing the spirituality out of it. I thought Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, like basically highlighting how there's like a vengeance for the original mother leaving the white male and not and basically leaving them to fend for themselves, and then the objectification and like hate put towards the woman, like if it shows itself in so many different layers, but just in sex alone, like the fact that we come to believe or even have it some form of condition in our mind that is a positive sexual experience, if you like it dominant or if you like it rough, or torture being an element of it. It's very much I just thought it's very important to understand that it's a white supremacist mentality that has put that on and has permeated deeper into our conditioning. But that's a normal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to just give insight to what Mary was saying. There in the book, there's a lot of information that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing provides to us, and one of the instances of that information is that white people, when they engage in intercourse with Black women, they often express through that sex they basically practice racism during sex. For example, by asking Black women if they could like urinate on them or shit on them. And I've had countless Black women tell me that during sexual encounters with white men, they felt like after the fact they felt very, very used and ashamed and felt that the sex wasn't for pleasure, it was more than being dominated. And I personally see like when white men have sex with Black women, I see it as what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has put it as, where she says basically like they are basically, having sex with this Black person so they can experience, melanin, experience the fantasy of being able to produce melanin. And also it's like their original motherfucker. This whole chapter is about the motherfucker and where that word comes from. And in short, like white men, whenever they have sex with Black women, they are fantasizing about the original mother, how white people were created from Black women. They came out of Black women's vaginas. And albino mutants are just people with deficient levels of melanin. And how this word motherfucker is a word that it has manifested to remind Black people, Black men, that they do not have power in the system. Whatever power you think you have, it's not power. Power is more than being able to decide, how I'm gonna go outside today. I'm gonna go buy this watch today. That's not power. You're being allowed to do these things. Real power is being able to live freely and without fear of being murdered by a police officer, without fear of being locked into a prison. That's the real power, being able to have a clear conscience and not have to dictate your movement, dictate your speech, or modify your logic or survive in a very racist, white-dominated system and society.
Yeah, thank you. On 124, what you just explained, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing makes a statement. I'd like to share it. Even more significant is the fact that the white male could not abstain from making sexual aggression towards the Black female. Indeed, some of the most important founding fathers of the so-called United States of America were involved in actively and continuously in relationships with Black women, i.e. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I was just moving. Yeah, pattern of sexual aggression of the white male towards the Black female continues unabated to this day. Ultimately, it is a little wonder that Black stockings, Black underwear, and Black sleepwear are items of sexual stimulation for the white male collective. I'm reading this out. When I initially saw the George Washington Carver and the Thomas Jefferson, it made me think of some of the storylines that we hear in mainstream media by Shonda Rhimes, like Scandal, Being Mary Jane, but more so Scandal, like a Black female sleeping with someone high in power, but it's done like in the dark, it's done in shades, and not only that, the personality traits that they give them is almost like they're a powerful woman, but under the eyes of the male, they're like creaturistic, they're like their guilty pleasure, like succubus type energy, like something that's not like proud and worthy to be out in the open with. It's always done like under the wraps, taboo. Exactly. And yeah, that's what it made me think of, and it makes sense that that's something that would be, as much as, don't get me wrong, Shonda Rhimes makes amazing shows, but that the fact that those are the storylines that are extremely predominant, and it shows the dark-skinned Black woman in a bad light, it makes sense that it rose and it's so mainstream.
Okay, I guess I'll continue to move us along further. So I wanted to talk about name calling and how the name calling affects Black people. So can someone here tell me about a time where they were affected by name calling and how it made them feel? And I think this essay and this chapter really has some truth here that will allow us to know why we react to name calling the way we do. So if anyone wants to go first, actually I'm gonna call on Swan.
Yeah, I remember talking about verbal attacks and how name calling is just a verbal attack, and a verbal attack is I would see that as a attempt for your inferiorization to manifest. Like if I already think you're like less than, and I call you a name that refers to you as being less than, and you react in a way that I expect you to react to that, then at least from my perspective, I've proven my point. I get to now laugh at you for acting or however you're responding to it. So I just see that as verbal attacks. Yeah, I'm just gonna.
I can't like literally recall at this moment in time of when I've been called names, but I can recall behavior being forceful behaviors that basically insinuate name calling. Like my manager, like basically trying to remove like my intellectual intelligence and telling me that I cannot like cross check or like just basically correct a piece of paper. She will correct it for me, and then basically it increased my process, and that's basically telling me that you think I'm stupid or a monkey. And yeah, so in dealing with that, I take it synonymous to name calling in a sense, because it's like treating me like the name that you insinuate. And yeah, in dealing with that, I tried to act appropriately. I resigned, so that's appropriate in my eyes, keeping my mental health strengthened.
Yeah, growing up in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s in San Francisco, I encountered a lot of that. People might think that San Francisco was some kind of liberal place, and everything was integrated. And actually, that's the way I was raised to think that we're in some society where we're all living together happily, and color doesn't matter. Like Michael Jackson even had a song that said, it really doesn't even matter if you're black or white. And we were militant young kids, though. We would beat the white kids up. We would chase white kids home. We were the aggressors. But so for someone to use the N word, call me a nigger or a coon or something like that, speaking of reaction, that's very true. They were getting the reaction that they wanted, an ass whooping, which is like, in their eyes, of the physical attack is animalistic, right? You've reduced yourself to the animal level by getting physical with me. And there again is another form of projection. You know, I'm gonna stimulate you to behave in a way that lessens you because I feel less. I'm the violent one. You know, I'm the savage, but I'm going to behave in a way that brings out your savage to make you look. You know, it's another one of the white supremacist tactics, you know, and just reading this and having this conversation. Wow. You know, it's, you know, my eyes are being open to, you know, what happened to us, you know?
Yeah, and I would even go so far as to saying even nicknames are like a process of dehumanization. It's the refusal to call people by their actual names. I know more as I'm getting more and more educated on this subject matter. I'm getting more and more upset when people call me any nicknames, especially people I just meet. Like I even think the shortening of my name is disrespectful and demeaning to some extent. The refusal to say full names, and I get name called all the time. I am a Black male. I live in a racist, white supremacist system, so I get name called every single day. And whenever I walk out my house, I'm getting name called. Whether I'm aware of it or not, I'm aware that I live in a racist society and I would never be able to escape racism until racism ends. Whenever a white woman or a non-white woman or a non-white person punches their bag or their pockets, when I walk past them, I am being called a name, criminal, threat. And what I'm going to read can be applied to Black males and Black women, as well as other non-whites. But there's a reason why we feel it when we're name called. There's a reason why we feel it. It's because we're reminded consciously or subconsciously of our powerlessness in this system. So this is on page 122. The reality and awareness of Black male powerlessness in the context of white supremacy, system causes such gut and psychic pain for the Black male that the brain computer switches over to the very deep levels of the unconscious mind, to the realm and region of symbolic word formation and thinking. Here, the brain pieces together encoded symbolic language, the phraseology that hides from the conscious mind and a continued existence and activity of a totally unacceptable reality. Indeed, there is no single term that is more emotionally charged, nor a phrase that is more often used by Black males in the U.S. than motherfucker. This suggests that the most obvious of all realities for Black males is their powerlessness relative to the power of the white male and the system and culture of racism. So, in short, when Black people are called nigger, when Black people are called motherfucker, it basically triggers in our brain computer, in our mind, that something is going on here in this society. I actually do not have power in a society, and this word is reminding me of my positionality, aka reminding me that in the system of white supremacy, I am at the bottom. I am expendable, and my race of people are being genocided. What else? Oh yeah, and it's so interesting how Dr.Frances Cress Welsing says how white people have a hard time saying the word motherfucker because they're very aware, even if they're either subconsciously or consciously that they are the original motherfuckers. Because during antebellum slavery, you had a lot of white people who were raping slaves, raping these women who were raising their children, aka the mothers to their white childs. And this has been documented. You know, there was a white person by the name of Thomas Thistlewood. I think he raped about, I mean, hundreds of slaves, and he wrote about it in his diary. Thomas Jefferson raped his slaves. There's no way for a adult male to have a relationship with a child or a teenager. So all the relationships that Thomas Jefferson had with his slaves were also rape, and there's no way to have a consensual relationship in the context of slavery. So a lot of white males made a tradition out of raping Black women during slavery. All sex that occurred during slavery was rape, and there's no way to argue against that unless you are, you know, actively participating and practicing insanity. You want to be insane, you want people to know you're insane, and you'll say, yeah, people were having consensual sex during slavery is impossible. I actually want to ask the group the question: do you think it was possible during antebellum slavery to have consensual sex with a white person?
Definitely not.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think you said it quite perfectly. In the context of slavery, all of the sex that occurred was rape, even the sex between the so-called slave males and females, because that was usually like pressured upon the slave masters. So we just, yeah, I hate to hammer in this point, but we live in a really like hellish society of racism and white supremacy. Therefore, all these things have manifested, like slavery, sex farms on slavery, sex dens on slavery, just so much. There's this a really this is a book called Rethinking Rufus, which is about the rape of males, black males during slavery, and all the atrocious tortures that occurred. I don't think I could personally like read the book because I've heard some things been talking about it in it, and they were just so grotesque that I won't even share it with you guys. But it's just really abhorrent what this system of white supremacy has manifested. And the book is called Rethinking Rufus, if you guys want to research it.
Is it a white author or a black author?
I believe a white author.
Yeah, so of course it's going to be extremely sadistic.
I definitely think that it's a no on the scale of, even if some level thought that they be in love with slave master, what they were looking at was being in love with freedom, being in love with safety, being in love with security, and feeling like they have any kind of form of control, which is not really consensual, which makes it kind of relates to like what happens in society now, where people who believe that marrying outside of their race will give them any kind of like accumulation, that's not real mental freedom, and therefore you're not consensual, although you may think it is, until you address those layers that is doing it for the sake of upward social mobility or of easier life, or that conditioning that this equals rights, then you too are being raped. But you're the one in the physical act doing it. Just yeah. So China would like to say something because she actually believes it was consensual. No, come.
No, what I'm asking
you said the very
is, what I'm saying is, as much as you're saying that they're basically in an inception within this level of
control
and
freedom.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's some people like generations down, and how many generations of slavery, like they've lived that life.
Can't hear her. Let her come and talk to us.
Yeah, you need to put. We cannot hear you. You're wasting our time. Closer to the computer.
She's coming.
I'm just asking, like, although they're in years and years of controlling and all that stuff, do you still think that person still don't think that they're in love, believe that they're in love? Although the bigger picture, they're being controlled, but they have woken up, they've lived their life, they've seen their mother live this life, this is normality to them. So to them, this is normal, though it's not normal. It's normal, and they think they're in love, so they're in love, and they're in love, and that action, they act in love. So although it's a fucked up circumstance to be in,
He's
they
talking about
believe.
during slavery times.
But
Yeah.
wait. But still, but her question still is a valid question for today, because I would argue that what people, even in the modern world, call love is not so-called love. It's more of another form of insanity, because love is like protection. You want better, you want to like strive, or you want to create something really sustainable. I don't see that happening in a lot of relationships. I see the relationships being like compared to like materials, material gaining and participating in like things such as dates and whatnot. That's really important. But so I think her question is really valid, and I would say no. It's rare. It wasn't love back then. It's definitely not love right now either.
Yeah, I agree. Ben, go Ben. I'll let Ben share, and then I'll hop in after Ben.
Thank you for that input, your friend. And thank you everybody for your really profound analysis. What comes to my mind, how this is affecting us in current times, is that like the woman during chattel slavery had more access. She was able to get into the house, of course, because in many cases, the slave master, the overseer, wanted to have sex with her, so she had more access to supplies and foods and different things. And so, but she, in many cases, had a husband, or a relationship. So the man would send her into the house and to the master to go and acquiesce certain things and information or whatever to get. And it reminds me of I think that evolved into the phenomena of modern day pimping, where black male, you have some white pimps here and there, but they're not the notorious, famous, charismatic black pimps. Black pimps, historically, through survival, through the need to continue to use women to get his needs met. And there's actually a documentary about it, how there were pimps back in those days, right during Reconstruction. It had stage coaches and top hats and nice suits and horses, a harem of women that would go into the saloons and get the money and bring it to them. And so again, there's another projection of white male supremacy being adopted by us, subconsciously or consciously. And yeah, that was just like nowadays, you'll ask some of these sex workers that have pimps, they will tell you they love their pimp. They will tell you that that's the reason that they do it, because they love them and they'll do anything for them. But like your friend said, that's not love. You know what I mean? That's total dependence, codependent, a dependent codependent relationship. And that's interesting that's what slavery has done. It has created, instead of loving interdependent relationships, it has created these really destructive codependent relationships in families.
I agree. Well, with Swa has said and what Ben has said thus far, and I'll answer China's question as well. I personally do not believe in the context of racism, white supremacy, aka in the system that we are living in right now, that there can be a mutually respective, real relationship between a white person and a non-white person, because there are extreme gaps in power, extreme gaps in how people are treated globally and locally, I do not believe that, you know, they can have quote unquote relationships that are real. It's always going to be for survival for the non-white person, and it's always going to be for like display or something for the white person. It's not going to be authentic. Yes, they're always going to be reacting to something or putting something on display. And that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen happen with interracial relationships. In some cultures, it's actually encouraged that you date white people and marry white people so you can, you know, be perceived as being more successful. So your family gets you know, their status enhanced. You're more closer to whiteness. Until white supremacy ends, I don't see relationships with non-white people being anything but like just distractions. Very very intense distractions. If no one has anything else to say, I want to move on, stay grounded in the book. So let's investigate further the term the motherfucker, because this, like, flow English and all white languages, it's riddled in curses, riddled in traps, riddled in spells, and also there's a lot of truth hidden in the words motherfucker. This is on page 125, and I'm gonna read this part too because it kind of adds more proof to what me and SWAT are saying about non-white and white relationships. It should be noted that the term sexual aggression is used to imply a sexual relationship between political unequals. That is exactly what Black people and white people are. We are political unequals. Mm-hmm. The white male has power and the Black female, like the Black male, is powerless. Sexual favors are thus directly are indirectly forced from the powerless partner. Each time the white male imposes himself sexually upon the Black females, at the deep levels of symbolic thought, he can be viewed as having intercourse with the reflection of his original Black mother. Thus, the deep and fundamental psychodynamics of the white supremacy system and culture, the white male becomes the original motherfucker. Thus, through the subtle and intricate dynamics and the unconscious underweavings of the white supremacy system culture, the white male has projected his image as a motherfucker onto the total Black collective throughout the world. Indeed, each time one Black male even utters the term motherfucker to another Black male, there's probably some white male on the planet who is having sexual intercourse with a Black or other non-white female. The symbolic representation of the white male's original Black mother. Even the white male's pornographic magazines are filled with pictures of white males having intercourse with Black females. This need to return to and to have intercourse with the Black mother is undoubtedly the true basis for the Greek myth Oedipus Rex. It also explains why the symbolic story myth continues to have major significance in the white supremacy system and culture. The myth of Oedipus tells Oedipus sleeping with his mother, the Black female, and slaying his father, the Black male. The myth of Oedipus parallels and importance the biblical myth of Adam and Eve, which in coded language depicts the origin of the first whites, albinos from Black parents. So I'm just going to shorten this for you guys. We have Dr.Frances Cress Welsing saying, whenever a white person is having sex with a Black woman or a non-white person, there's probably Black people somewhere fighting amongst each other, name calling each other. And it also talks about how traditionally in their mythos and in their history, white people have been writing about having sex with their mother and killing their fathers. And that's what you see all the time. You see interracial relationships between white men and black women, and you also see white men killing black people every single day. In every country, in every continent, you have black people being killed by white people via police officers, via special forces invasions of like Africa. We all know that Africa is under high levels of attack from America and Britain. What else? What else? Oh yeah, and projection. White men project their insecurities. They project their fears. White people and white men primarily project all of their nicknames, all of their badness. They project onto black people. So black people being rapists, black people being killers, black people being thieves. All of this shit is from the white psyche, and it's a white projection. All like black people are not niggers. Black people are not monsters. Black people are the first people on planet Earth. This planet was given to us to, raise this planet. We were sent here to protect this planet, and it's been stolen, and now it's been objectified by the white collective. And also, yeah, it's so funny how in the white supremacy system and culture, we have white people who are willing to pay black men millions of dollars to be on films and television shows screaming the word motherfucker and saying it with such finesse. And I'm talking about Samuel L. Jackson, how he's used consistently, and he's famous motherfucker. Yeah, this is not a coincidence. All of these things are connected. Racism is literally in everything. Racism manifests everywhere, and the fact that Samuel L. Jackson is paid to say motherfucker is a clear example of the programming, the continuous programming. What are you gonna say, Mary?
Oh no, we was agreeing with you in terms of the Samuel L. Jackson. That was the first image that popped into my mind as well. But I actually just wanted to thank you for your, if you are finished, I wanted to thank you for your articulation of the rest of chapter 9.
Yeah, we can move on from chapter 9. In short, calling dehumanization, like reminding black people of their place. You have no power here. You're a nigger. You're a motherfucker. You are less than. This is why name calling exists, and yeah.
Yeah, what really spoke to me was the points of projection and the fact that we say motherfucker. So we say the MF word the most, like as a culture, I would say more than I've seen it being in any kind of like white comedy. And if they are doing it in any kind of white comedy, it's almost like they're trying to copy like that black slang or like some form of like derogatory black culture. And that is so telling that I thought that word is so, and I always grew up thought to myself, mother effer. Like I just thought about it in terms of like even our issues in terms of molestation, like the actual like dark sides of like learnt lower conditioning behavior. I didn't even see that I didn't see how it related to us, other than the fact that Samuel L. Jackson says it like 1,000 times in movies. And I thought that was interesting as well, the fact that you brought up Samuel Jackson. He's like somebody who is used as like a speakerphone through Tarantino to say the N-word, and with consistently within different movie roles, which really shows that projection of that Dr.Frances Cress Welsing is talking about refracting everything that is them onto the black culture.
Tell me, thanks for providing your insight. Closing thoughts. Anyone have anything they want to read before we move on to chapter 10?
Yeah, right quick. Thank you, Mary, for that addition. This is so deep. Woo. Getting so on page 128, the very high, perhaps unconscious level of psychic pain experienced by the white male because of his genetic deficiency as an albino variant and his neurotic desire to be born again from the original black mother is perhaps the reason why the phrase motherfucker is such an awesome phrase for the white male to utter. It is a phrase that the white male is almost unable to bring his vocal apparatus to form. This in stark contrast to the frequent uttering of the phrase motherfucker by black males. When translated, the term means functional powerlessness for the black male in the context of white supremacy system culture. However, it is an externally imposed powerlessness.
It's so funny, Ben. I was actually about to read that part because that's a great part to finish on. And projection, like projection. Like these people who classify themselves as white. Keep in mind, no one is black, no one is white. These are all classifications. These are classifications by white people. They have classified us to make it easier for us to kill and keep track of their kills, keep track of their slaves.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, of course. And don't forget Cornelius Lanius, whatever the fuck his name is. That's the guy who classified races. He classified Africans as black people, classified Asian people as yellow people, classified Native Americans as red people. These things were not natural. These are not natural things, you know. And everything that is like created and used to attack black people more than likely is gonna be a projection. Like what Ben just read. White people have intense insecurities around their genitalia. White people are very aware that the genitalia is somewhat insufficient. White people are very aware that they are lacking melanin, and white people are very aware that because of that, they can be genetically annihilated by the mere existence of people with melanin, primarily black people, because black people have the highest melanin count. We are the darkest people on planet Earth, therefore we are the highest threats. That's why the genocide against black people has been pushed to like 10. You know, it's an overdrive. You know, Black Lives Matter. That's just to call attention to our genocide. It's not supposed to stop it. It's supposed to say, "Hey, look at our genocide happening." You know,
that is an example of anti-racism, which is a blind reaction to racism. So and also, of course, that whole agenda has been taken over by the white supremacists, and it's still being used in various ways to not produce constructive results. But I want to share something that happened yesterday. I was playing a video game, and this little white child told a joke that made me laugh to tears. I wish I could remember it, but it was so long. But the joke involved incest, penis envy, and rape. And I was like, this is all like the nature of like the European and one little hilarious joke. And there's a little white kid, and he was with his white friends. They're making dick jokes and stuff. I was like, this is literally just what they do. This is literally just their nature. And it was just so hilarious just to hear this. So I wanted to share that.
Yeah. So I stopped the record for a second. Chapter 10, one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, before we get to chapter 10, you was mentioning Cornelius Linnaeus, and I have that written down in my essay, The Concept of Human.
Yeah.
Is essentially exclusionary, and I can read literally the description and that he gave for black people, white people, Asian people. So let me. Yeah, Cornelius Linnaeus, a professor of the natural sciences, legacy for his work with
with or around the age of enlightenment.
With around the age of enlightenment, wrote a vast collection of work contributing to the anthropological as well as the botanical field of study in the 17th century, which shaped the ideologies of the people at the time. I take the direct quotes from the Order of the Anthropomorpha to further illustrate the literature to be viewed by all who follow the medical works of Linnaeus, where he drew categories by 4 colored varieties. The European albus, indigenous, inventive, white, sanguineous. He is governed by law. Americans, Americans robuscus, happy with his lot. Liberty, loving, tan-skinned. Sybil, he is governed by custom. Asiarchus lur, Adriarchus lur, proud, vivacious, yellowish, melancholy. He is governed by opinion. Affer nigger or niger, crafty, lazy, careless. Black, apathetic. He is governed by the arbitrary will of his masters. Where are we? This classification in later work, Linnaeus further explored the deep chasm dividing white lawgivers from black slaves.
I think you should simplify that for people. Just read not the European like definitions of race. Just say this white man said yellow people were X, Y, and Z. So I did think it's a really important part.
So
yeah.
I got you, perfect. So he stated Americans, which I believe he is talking about the native, are happy with his lot, liberty loving and tan skinned. Sybil, he is governed by custom. He mentions the Europeans being indigenous, so white people being indigenous, ingenious, inventive, white, and sanguineous. I don't know what sanguineous means. I should, but I'm not. Sanguineous.
Don't know what that word means, but it says he's governed by law.
Yeah, and then the I already mentioned the Asian, the Afri niggers being crafty, lazy, and careless, and being governed by the arbitrary will of their masters. While the Asian is proud, vivacious, yellowish, and melancholy, he's governed by opinion. So that breakdown is literally the description that Cornelius Linnaeus gave in his Anthropomorpha, which was the anthropology philosophy of the day, which was picked up by most of their institutions. So this is the knowledge that was being passed down about how to not only deal with race, but their categorization of us.
Yeah, and this is also a glimpse into the European Utumawazo, the need to divide, the need to classify, the need to have groups. It makes it easier for them to perceive what they are studying.
To control.
The European Sicily and the European Utumawazo is obsessed with categories. Obsessed, absolutely obsessed. That's why you have, just so many derogatory terms assigned to non-white people. Like Mary said, Black people are, first of all, already declared niggers, already lazy, already living in squander. Asian people are yellow, who are what? Shiesty, untrustworthy, untamable. Sad. Like, they're sad people. The audacity of Europeans to say an entire group of people are sad. It's intense. Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing that. If anyone has anything else to add on to chapter 9, do so now. If not, we could jump into chapter 10.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to move on, but this jumped out for me.
Yeah, read it. Yeah. If it jumps out to you, it needs to be read. You know,
it's the very end of the chapter too. The white
perfect.
race historically has sought to hide its genetic origins in Africa amongst blacks, just as
Yep.
it sought to deny the origins of white civilization from the culture of blacks in Africa, seeking instead to proclaim an origin amongst the Greeks. Historically, whites also have sought to degrade Africa and everything black. By doing so, whites can avoid confronting the true meaning of skin whiteness as a mutation and genetic deficiency state from the black norm. Man, that capsulizes it. So I mean, she puts it so, she crystallizes it so well here. Um, Again, getting to the foundation of and you know that they're hiding, you know, their hiding place. Like Greek culture is their hiding place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. I started reading Message to the Black Man, and if you compare um like Elijah's Muhammad origin of how like the white race was created, if you compare that with the destruction of the black civilization, and you see how white people use the mulattoes to take over whole nations and stuff, I'm like, maybe this message to the black man is like really has a lot of truth to it. I don't know if you read it, Ben. Have you read that, the message to the black man in America?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the making of the
It's been
devil
a
is
long time.
it's a really phenomenal chapter. I put it in a link, everyone, in chat.
It's required reading, I think. You
Yeah,
know.
it's yeah. We need to get back on the mentality of understanding the enemy for sure.
And then how it relates to motherfucker is that they so the Greeks are notoriously, Alexander the Great was a notorious homosexual who disallowed his soldiers from sleeping with women, and because of, and this is theoretical, their fear of the black woman, and the effect and the influence that they would have over the soldiers and over, you know, because that's where they got. Alexander the Greek was a mendicant for the pharaohs. He was actually, as a growing up as a child, a messenger boy for the pharaohs, just a servant boy, and he learned the laws and the education that was being taught in Kemet at the time, and uh, systematically discovered and orchestrated a way to overthrow Egypt. And this is oh man, this is directly tying to uh, the annihilation, or at least the subjugation and the total oppression of black people because of their power at that time. And so because the ancient Egyptian influence in Greece was so powerful, so influential, uh, they used that culture to hide behind. This is incredible. I'm learning this as I go along. You know how they hide behind other cultures, how they'll steal other cultures, like the Jews. You know, they know. You know, and the key to their power is the secrecy. That's why we've been unable to join together and stay together as a block, because we're unable to keep our secrets and our strategies to ourselves. And the Jews, And the Chinese, they don't share their secrets. They have these deep, dark, secret societies that teach their kids, their kids the secrets to success, the numbers and the psychology to maintain power and control. And they're just like a handful, and they control Wall Street. They control the war machine. The insurance. I mean, all based on this information, this secret information that they were able to extract from us, from our alchemy, from our civilization, and then turn it on us. And it's you got to give them credit. It's a very effective, successful strategy. So I just cannot tell you how grateful I am to be sitting in a room with young Black intellects that are going after this. So yeah.
And someone has to be willing to say racism, white supremacy is real. Someone has to be willing to have these difficult conversations, and someone has to say, I'm not happy when I go outside and I'm depicted and perceived to be a threat. I'm not happy when I go outside and people are punching their bags around me. These things are attacks against my soul. And when my soul is attacked, my body is destroyed. My mind is destroyed. And I'm not fucking with that. And I will talk about racism as much as I need to. I will call it white supremacy because I'm not a coward and I'm not a fucking sheep. And I'm not willing to have Black people eradicated from fucking planet Earth. That's the plan. I don't want Black people to never be on planet Earth. That's what they want. They want a world full of white people and beige people. I'm not fucking with that. Genocide is real, people. So, and it's also, you guys are gonna see during chapter 10 how everything is ingrained into this shit. And Ben, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on chapter 10, because I don't know if you're a sports guy. I don't know. I think you are. And I know this must have been a lot of intense information for you. So wait, are we ready to move on? Yeah, ready to move on to chapter 10? Yeah. All right.
Can you reintroduce so I could get the intro for chapter